When it comes to coffee, Starbucks is a renowned brand. After starting as a single coffee shop in Seattle in 1971, Starbucks has evolved into a multi-billion-dollar empire over the last 51 years, owing partly to its iconic cups, which are commonly embossed with misspelt names. Starbucks accounts for 57% of the total revenue of the whole coffee industry. Yes, you heard me right, 57%. Even though the firm has developed substantially, there have been some bumps in the path. So what's the journey of Starbucks' rise to glory? Without further ado, let's dive into the video. In 1973, Zev Siegel, Gordon Bowker, and Baldwin Jerry, who were college friends, decided to create a coffee shop in their hometown. Among others who influenced them was Alfred Pettigrew, the man who founded Peet's Coffee. He was a pioneer in developing specialty coffee roasting in the United States. Zev Siegel understood the coffee industry, particularly the high-end market, and when he started, he was the most well-educated barista in the entire country. They solicited Peet's assistance in 1971 to establish a coffee company and roastery in Seattle's iconic Pike Place market, and they named it Starbucks. In the next few years, the firm opened 5 additional locations in the Seattle area. Coffee consumers then may have been aware of a particular fact. There were no authentic coffee drinks available on the market at that time since the culture was restricted to homes. There were no coffee shops. Additionally, espresso-based drinks, well, they weren't in great demand. Not up until 1980 could anyone have imagined receiving a cup of coffee from Starbucks. Customers who used to drink instant or canned coffee were the primary target audience for Starbucks' first attempt. They aimed to give them high-quality beans in a convenient format, but the business plan changed when a new member was welcomed into the Starbucks management team. Howard Schultz was the company's first genuinely effective director of marketing and sales, who served for more than a decade. This, on the other hand, would turn out to be Starbucks' best decision ever. But why is that, and who is he? He was born the 19th of July in 1953. He grew up in a low-income family. His father was a soldier in the Army before going into the trucking business. And growing up in a low-income neighborhood, he had to learn to deal with the challenges of everyday life. He witnessed his father struggle due to financial difficulty. When his father was injured at work and unable to seek medical treatment due to them having no medical insurance, the family was forced to deal with this unprecedented incident. He went ahead to say, "My father's self-respect and dignity were eroding in front of me as a result, and I suppose that he became irritated because he was treated as if he was an ordinary worker." During his final year of high school, he received an offer from Northern Michigan University to play football on a full-ride scholarship. When he decided that he didn't want to play football in college, he switched his major to communication and became a journalist. His bartending job and selling his own blood were 2 ways he could obtain the funds needed to pay for his college tuition. He worked as a sales manager at Xerox for the first 3 years of his career before going to Hamamaplast in Sweden. Starbucks obtained several things from this company, among them coffee equipment. Howard was the curious type of person, and when Starbucks ordered a large amount of coffee equipment, he immediately noticed, as they were such a small company at the time. He therefore reached out to Gerald Baldwin and Gordon Bowker, Starbucks co-owners, who were waiting for him in Seattle in order to meet them. After multiple discussions, they decided to hire Howard the following year as the company's Director of Retail Operations and Marketing. He traveled to Milan to attend the International Houseware Show, which significantly influenced both Starbucks and Howard's professional life. He noticed a few little coffee shops that drew his interest when he walked by. Namely, coffee shop operators got to know their clients by name and developed a personal relationship with them when serving cappuccinos and cafe lattes. The following day at work at Starbucks, he pitched the same idea to the owners, but they weren't in for it. After a few attempts, Howard decided to leave the company in 1985 because the 2 founders were rejecting his concept for an Italian-style coffee experience. Not giving up, he subsequently founded his coffee firm, Il Giornale, which means the daily in Italian. The journey wasn't easy, and when describing the difficulties that he went through, he says, "I received no responses from nearly 217 people out of the 242 people I contacted over the year I spent trying to gather the money." Just think about how upsetting it would be to find that your proposal isn't worth pursuing more financial backing. At the time, we were going through a trying time. Aiello Giornali is where he spent the next 2 years trying to replicate the Italian culture that he saw during his visit, and he adored it. In 1987, Schultz and his investors were able to acquire Starbucks, proving that the experiment had been a success. He was 34 years old at the time. However, Howard used a growth-oriented plan for Starbucks, and by the time Starbucks went public in 1992, it had 165 shops worldwide. By 1996, the firm grew to 1,000 locations, including its first coffee shops in Singapore and Japan. Starbucks opened its 2,000th location in less than 3 years after the company's spectacular journey. Following the discovery of a successful business model that could be replicated in other locations, they could accelerate their expansion considerably. Starbucks had 3,500 outlets in more than a dozen countries when Schultz transitioned from CEO to executive chairman in 2000. In addition, the number of Starbucks shops expanded from 3,500 in 2000 to more than 15,000 in the country alone. Approximately 1,500 new stores were opened on average every year, with 2,500 stores opening in 2007. As the popularity of these iconic paper-to-go cups grew, revenues increased from $2 billion to $9.4 billion. But despite its efforts, Starbucks was unable to maintain its growth when the economy crashed in 2007. When the economy started to deteriorate, Starbucks' rapid expansion came to a grinding halt, and the company's stock price plummeted by half. The revelation that Starbucks had rehired Howard Schultz to being the CEO only resulted in a 9% increase in company shares. Schultz stopped his company's expansion from providing greater service to his customers. He closed over 600 coffee shops in 2008 and another 300 in 2009, resulting in the layoff of more than 6,700 baristas in the process. After only 1 month after Schultz's return to the company, he could retrain the company's 135,000 baristas on how to make Starbucks' signature espresso. Howard's intention was to remind his customers why they like Starbucks by making the coffee more than simply a location to enjoy a cup of coffee. Their characteristic aroma was restored once they discontinued the selling of sandwiches and restarted in-house grinding, which they had previously discontinued. Indeed, Schultz ordered that the automated espresso machine should be removed from the establishments. The machines could speed up service, but they sacrificed some of the enchantment and whimsy that came along with watching the coffee machine in action. To many people's surprise, Schultz's makeover was a resounding triumph. In 2009, the firm's stock price surged by more than 143%, and same-store sales soared by a similar percentage. Starbucks has continued to record high same-store sales in the years following 2009. Starbucks didn't open any new locations throughout Schultz's overhaul of the company's coffee shops, but things changed and gathered up speed once again in 2012. More than 3,000 new Starbucks were opened between 2012 and 2017, bringing the overall number of Starbucks locations to 20,000 worldwide. Nevertheless, the issue of profit cannibalization was now more visible. The market's oversaturation, which is particularly prominent in metro areas, had caused sales to decline. Even though Starbucks' total sales were growing, the company's same-store sales went down. A shift in client preferences added to the difficulty of the situation. Starbucks mainstays such as sugar-laden calorie bombs were being shunned by customers. There were 57 grams of sugar in those popular Frappuccinos, which was the average, but that was more than double the recommended daily sugar intake. And as a result of these concerns, Starbucks decided to implement certain modifications of its own. In 2019, more than 150 stores closed their doors. For a company the size of Starbucks, the number may seem like a drop in the bucket, but it represents 3 times the number of shops the company generally closes in a given year. But still, the company intends to build more facilities in the coming years, with an eye toward further development in the future. Drinks with a high concentration of sugar or whipped cream were placed on the back burner. The establishment marketed cold brew and fruity refreshments such as acai bowls to combat this. By the middle of 2019, the corporation expected to have delivered to a fifth of its owned and operated facilities. While not its most ambitious effort, Starbucks Reserve Roasteries, its new line of upscale locations, is undoubtedly the most ambitious initiative. They're intended to serve as tourist attractions with massive 20,000 square foot footprints. Starbucks baristas and bartenders will use the space to experiment with different brewing procedures and develop new and imaginative cocktails, which has been an enormous success. By 2019, the company had 6 roasteries in operation, but it hoped to expand to 2 more soon. It appears that the Starbucks Reserve Roasteries do not want you to feel like any other Starbucks customer, and that is the type of high-end experience store that people are seeking. However, analysts believe that what will genuinely emerge from it is the halo effect, which will elevate the brand in customers' eyes. And now, that's quite lavish. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button and activate those notifications for more inspiring videos. Cheers.